Hey guys, welcome to General Query. This is Fonz. I go by he, him, and his.
Hi guys, and this is Zuki, and I go by she, her, and hers. Welcome to another episode of General Query, coming at ya through the computer.
Remotely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm actually I know I've mentioned it before, but I'm actually enjoying this because it's very
Yeah, I think
it's
we're get
different but the
yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah. So just a reminder, like we have posted on YouTube again because we figured out that we like the setup of the cameras this way. It's absolutely fine. We love it. It works, and we can send it out quicker to you guys and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So make sure you go over to YouTube if you want to watch us as we talk to each other.
If TikTok
Um,
is still alive, you'll see us there. Instagram reels are
Instagram
always
reels are always
always a
there.
thing. I think
Um,
we've done one or two YouTube reels too, so they're
yeah,
going. Yeah.
yeah.
But
So make sure
we're
you
still
check us out
trying.
there. Yeah. We're working at the kinks.
Yeah.
Uh, by the way, huge shout out to everyone that liked the reel for the last episode that we put out. I kept getting the notifications and I was so happy. It was really lovely. Thank you to everyone.
Right. You know what else? We got really positive feedback from our previous episode. Like I was telling
Yeah,
you, my younger sister loved it, but a lot of people actually were like, "Oh, that was a great episode." So I'm glad
good
you guys
guys.
love depressing shit.
I know, I know. It's because there are people,
That's true. I
like
forget that
they're just our people. They're into the depressing shit, and that's the thing. I can't
they
blame
are.
them.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
today
So
I'm drinking or was drinking some ginger ale gin. Just a very basic drink.
and I'm drinking wine.
I know.
So it's
I think
perfect.
eventually we'll get back to
Yeah.
making drinks.
It's just more, yeah, it's just a lot more. And to be honest, guys, so one thing, it's more difficult because we're in different like physical locations, but
Right.
also we've discovered that there's a actual palpable deficit in my ability to make drinks and Fonz's ability to make drinks. We are not the same, okay? We are not, as talented as the other. My drinks taste like straight ass and not in a good way. And so
Okay, I was about to say, well, it's not technically a bad thing, but
I
okay.
just don't. Yeah. So yeah, so that's another reason why we've, sort of fallen off the making our drinks track because I'm just not really that good at making drinks.
Mixology is an art. It's
It
fucking
is.
difficult.
It is. It's
Yeah,
very
I
difficult.
remember some of the drinks we've made have been amazing, and I'm sure the measurements were right. But some other drinks we've made are fucking trash. We should do
Gross.
martinis some other
Okay.
episode.
Martinis are a must.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so last week we went totally depresso, memento.
Right.
This week we are trying to shift a little bit. So this week we wanted to talk about a really, I think, cool topic.
I think
Sex,
it's a great topic.
right?
It
Yeah,
is.
this week we want to talk
Like,
about
who
sex,
doesn't
y'all.
have sex? Well,
Asexual
who?
people don't have sex.
Touche.
They don't.
Which, by the
Yeah.
way, so in the gay community, there's this thing called a side. So you know how there's a top and bottom, a verse.
Yep.
So there's a side.
What's a side?
That would be somewhat of an asexual person. Like
Like a
they don't
voyeur?
necessarily, no, they don't, somewhat, but they don't necessarily like the penetration portion of
Okay.
sex, but
Okay.
they're cool with blow jobs or hand jobs. Yeah.
So like foreplay related activities, kind of, sort of.
I mean, for you and I, that's foreplay. For them, that's sex.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay, but so the issue here is penetration. They don't like that.
Correct.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
I know.
I wonder what the percentage of it'd be really cool to see the demographics of folks that like identified that way. Like if it was mostly like cis women or if it was, you know what I mean? Like cis gay
Mhm.
men. You see what I'm saying? Like I wonder what it would be because those lines would be really interesting because like women, cis women, I could see why there would be women that don't like penetration, because that's the thing as it is. So let's just jump right into it, right? So like sex, orgasm, whatever, a large percentage of cis women cannot orgasm via penetration alone. It just doesn't happen for them. It doesn't do it for them. They need a lot more. Some women do, a lot of women don't.
Do you
Um,
think, I mean,
so
this is controversial, but do you think a lot
yeah,
of it has to do with one, emotions, and two, like the size of the penis?
you know what? Yes to both, but I don't think the
Yeah.
way that you're thinking, because so emotionally, yes, this we know. Scientifically, women do get much more emotionally involved in when sex happens. And
Yeah.
we do tend to enjoy sex a lot more when there's like this sort of like emotional connection, right? Check. But with the penis, and this is where this is, remember our episode, guys, on toxic masculinity. This is where toxic masculinity comes to fuck you a little bit.
Okay, here's the thing. Before you say it, I want to say
Tell
something.
me.
I know for a fact for women, it's more about the girth and movement versus the length.
100%. And
Yeah.
here's why. What a lot of people don't realize is we're gonna get a little technical here, guys. The cervix is actually really short, right? Like there's and every woman's cervix, there's an average length to it, but on average, you're looking at about 6 inches of cervix.
Right. Yeah.
So anything really above that for most women, it's just not it, friends. Like
Right.
you can be a little bit longer and it can work. However, this whole idea that you gotta have a big penis, like no, they're lying to you, friends. Most women aren't looking for that. They're looking for the motion of the ocean and looking for some girth is what we're looking
Yeah,
for here.
for sure.
Most women, and again, back to that, the asexual, sort of asexual folks that don't like penetration, I can see why women wouldn't, because a lot of the times penetration ends up being this really kind of uncomfy, like jumping kind of situation, and like it's not too
For
hot,
me in
you know?
the gay realm, I can see why some men wouldn't be turned on by that because obviously, I mean, let's be a little bit vulgar right now. Like you're
Sure.
fucking someone through the ass. So like naturally the ass isn't necessarily meant
It's
for
very
that.
different. Correct.
Yeah. So
Yes.
obviously there are accidents. Sometimes you do get very
Sure.
pungent scents coming out.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So I can see how like men would be kind of like, oh, I'm more of a side because there's
Yeah.
always pleasure in blowjobs, there's always pleasure in hand jobs.
Hand
So
jobs. Yeah. Without the risk, right? Like there's like a risk
correct,
involved.
without the mess per se. Yeah.
Yeah, the mess. Yeah. So, I mean, I think from that perspective, it is I can see why that happens. But yeah, I think, sex is one of those things that if you're gonna engage in it, obviously we have a whole episode on consent. Go check that one out. But
Right.
that's where stuff starts, right? Like you're in a sort of, mutually consenting arrangement, and then you go from there. But I think honestly what I like about sex in this time that we're living in is that I think there's a lot of people that are really committed to being really sex positive and just like really talk
Yeah.
about this topic like it's just a fact of life. It's what we
Right.
all do and
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
most of us love it and
Right.
whatever. Um, but I think it is important to talk about sex in non binary heteronormative terms because I think that's a lot of that is lost, right? Too. Like we all know what straight sex looks like. Like raise your hand. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
You know what's the
Uh,
worst part?
yeah.
And I say it because I'm a man and I've watched straight porn before. And the
Mm,
worst part is the way they fake those orgasms and the way the woman moans and grind, and that it's kind of annoying. It's overdone.
it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot. And I think,
And then
yeah,
men,
and I
like
think from
straight
yeah,
men, think that's normal, and that's not how it
yeah.
works.
And it no, for sure. I think there's, I'm definitely not against porn, but I think it definitely sets up a different expectation.
Unrealistic expectation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that's
Yeah.
not how anything actually goes
And I
down.
think it
Yeah.
it also reflects in like men's insecurities because there's billions of studies and they've like asked men like, are you 100% content with the size of your penis? And the majority say no.
So
Yeah.
sad.
And that's the reason
Sad.
why, because porn sells you this fucking like 12-inch
Anaconda.
penis. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That no one wants, by the way. Oh,
Or
again,
no one, like one in like 2 billion people have, like
yeah.
that's
Well,
not a
that
thing. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think also another thing about porn and like this idea that is presented to men in it is the circumcised penis idea,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because a lot of people assume that's the norm. It isn't. It isn't. A large swath of penis holding populations aren't
It's
circumcised.
actually the majority of the world.
It's the majority. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
circumcision. Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
US, and I tell you this with experience, uh
Bonds took a poll. He did his American duty and went around the United States.
I took plenty of polls. But the thing is like it's weird because there's this like stigma behind being uncut or cut, and
Yeah, there
or
is.
the stigma comes from being uncut, but generally women and gay
Yeah.
men prefer um cut penises because once again that's the norm or that's what they see. But you'd be
Yeah.
surprised to see now I've seen a lot more of like fetishizing fetishizing uncut penises. Yeah, it's a thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, you know what? The thing is, eh, you know, a lot of the times folks get circumcised as children, right? Like 99% of
Right.
the, like
No
as
option.
babies, like
Yeah.
newborns. It's not their choice, right? Either for religious reasons or your parents thought that that was the best way to go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we know now, right? Or we understand now that that is actually robbing this person of quite a bit of pleasure in their
Yeah.
adult life,
100%.
right?
But it's also
Yeah,
it's kind of like a double-edged sword because you have that the pleasure side of it, which like uncut penises do have a lot more nerve endings on their
sensitivity.
foreskin.
Yeah,
Yeah. And the
yeah,
head, yeah, the glands themselves do have more sensitivity. They're exposed to like any kind of stimulation, which is great. However, when you look at it from a, I guess, medical standpoint, like it is cleaner and healthier to be circumcised.
it is. It
Yeah.
especially for children, for kids, right? Like little boy, like little kids,
Yeah.
they don't know
Also,
how to clean up.
I'm sure we're all familiar with different penis size shapes and whatever, but there's
Yes.
some that can't pull their foreskin all the way back, and I'm sure that's painful
Uh,
for them. It's like that's when you like, kind of
that's when you run
mandatorily
into
have to
some
do it.
hygiene, yeah,
Yeah,
issues.
not
Yeah,
hygiene,
yeah.
but also like health issues, because like
Oh, okay. Yeah, in
yeah,
general.
because like yeah,
Yeah.
it just hurts. Pleasure hurts, which is kind of sad.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think like that's another aspect of things. Like, if your penis is uncut,
I just
welcome
remembered
it.
a story. Anyway,
Tell me, what's the story?
no,
Is it
no,
about an
continue.
uncut penis? Oh. Um, no, no, but yeah, like if you are if you're uncut, embrace it. If you're cut, embrace it, but just be like really like honest
Yeah,
about the
I
fact that it
think
really doesn't fucking matter.
I think for
Yeah.
me, especially playing with penises, if you're uncut, clean that shit. There's nothing more unpleasant than what people call dick cheese. That's disgusting.
What is dick cheese? What
It's
is
when
that?
when someone who's uncut doesn't watch their properly wash their dick for a while, and then you get this like white thing around it. It's fucking disgusting.
Is that, you know what? Is that what they call from under cheese? Is that the same thing like from under? Like
Mm-hmm,
under, like
mm-hmm,
from under cheese? Is that what it
mm-hmm,
is?
mm-hmm,
Oh,
mm-hmm.
I've heard that before.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
to
fucking disgusting.
yeah, I've heard of that before.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
And for
guys.
some odd, I'm not like shaming anyone, but like some people actually fetishize that. It's kind of funky.
You know what? The thing is, you know me and my obsession with big bodies. So who am I to judge, really? And that's
Yeah.
the thing.
And
Yeah.
I'm into like sweaty post gym balls, so
See? Yeah.
I guess it
And
makes sense.
yeah, we're not here to yuck your yum. You're fine.
Right.
Just,
Yeah.
don't get a fucking UTI. How about that?
Right. Just
Um,
clean yourself, please.
just clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also like into like, yeah, like so let's be aware of like the anatomy that most of us share, right? Like you got a penis, you got balls, you got buttholes, you got vaginas, you've got a clitoris, which is different than a vagina. I know our listeners are
Can
like,
I be
bitch,
disgusting?
please.
Maybe not disgusting.
No, never. Well,
Yeah,
what?
no, it's not disgusting. But so I've never been with a trans guy before.
Okay.
And I don't fetishize it because it's not like something I must have,
Sure,
in
sure, sure,
order to
sure,
get
sure,
off.
sure.
But I
Yeah, yeah.
do find enlarged clitorises to be very attractive.
Why? Because it
I
looks
don't
like
know.
a,
It's just
because
like
it's
intriguing.
resembles. Oh, it's intriguing. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because
Yeah,
I don't know. In my mind, it probably like the bigger it is, the more pleasure. Maybe I'm wrong. Once again,
yeah,
I've never been with
that's
a
what I
trans guy
understand.
before. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I'm intrigued by it because I want to see someone with an enlarged clitoris be like going wild.
Going wild. Yeah. No, and that's exactly it, right? Like everybody's anatomy is going to look a little bit different, but those are the basics. And I think it's important because listen, I know our listeners are going to be like, Zuki, bitch, we all graduated high school, hopefully. If you haven't graduated high school and you're listening to this fucking
Okay,
podcast,
but
you
here's
need
the
to go
thing.
carefully.
Depends on what high school, because remember, public high schools, public education in some states is trash.
Okay,
Go
I
on.
mean, fair, but now there's also the internet. So if you
Right.
didn't get it in grade school, you definitely can get it now. So don't be gross
Oh my
and like
God. That
don't
was
be dumb.
another topic I wanted to touch on this episode is like sex ed, but we'll get into it after you.
No, no, no. That was literally it. No, please, let's talk about sex ed
Oh,
because that's where I was going. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you, before we get into like public schools or
Okay.
private schools, because I didn't go to a
Uh-huh.
private school, but I'm curious. So, did you get a sex ed kind of class from your mother first?
Yes.
At what
Yeah.
age?
When I got my period, so 13? Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So my mother gave it to us, I want to say when we were still in elementary school, and I want to say it was
Good for
probably like
her.
third or fourth grade. So we were like
Perfect.
8 or 9 years old. And the way she explained it, I wish more parents would do that
Yeah.
because, first of all, she went into both um genitals. Like she spoke about the men's genitals first and how like everything grows, you get hair, et cetera, testosterone, blah 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 blah. You've met my mom.
Wonderful.
Like
Yeah,
she
I have.
is very smart and like weird in
Very.
a way. Yeah, and so that's how she started, and then she went into like the women's reproductive system, and then she went into like this whole conversation as to how it happens and stuff. Unfortunately, back then she didn't know, this one was going to end up with a guy. But I'm sure if she had known, she would have gone into like homosexual relationships as well.
She would have. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm sure
Yeah.
she would have. But like, I think in general, her way of teaching us about sex was very smart. And I think 8 or 9 years old is not too early to start,
I don't think so either. I don't
especially
think so either.
now.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I
Yeah,
think, especially now, the exposure that kids have is so much greater than,
absolutely.
than we had at the
Yep.
time. And also like you can never like I think having that conversation early with your child also allows your child to know when things are going wrong, when someone's
Yeah.
trying to hurt them. And so you see what like they know they're like,
100%.
oh no, no, no,
Yep.
no, this is not
Yep. This
the
is not
right
normal. Yep.
context. Yeah, this is not
Mhm.
normal. So yeah, good for your mom, queen. But I mean, we know. Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. But you know what? It's not. I would say, yeah, definitely 13 for me, but it wasn't something that was shh in my house. You see what I'm saying? Like
Good.
it
Yeah.
wasn't
I mean,
like,
your mom's a nurse, so I think it was probably a pretty
yeah.
open
Oh
conversation.
yeah. And
Yeah.
very clinical, right? Sort of like
Right.
these are,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
facts of life. Yeah. So I think we both got very lucky from that side of things.
Absolutely.
But I also got like a sex ed class in, when was it? Seventh grade? Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember when I got my first sex ed class. I think it was fifth grade because it was right before I went to middle school. But before we get to that, yes, we are very lucky because I had an aunt who um, literally told my mom that it was her obligation to give her daughter the sex talk and the kind of like puberty talk because she
Oh
just
man.
couldn't. She was like, I just can't. I don't even know how to bring it up. I don't know how to explain it. I think you're way smarter than I am. So, like, I'll just let you do it for me. And my mom was like, the fuck? That's your kid, you know? But I don't know if she ever did it or not. But I think what my mom did was like teach her how to do it. So I don't know if that ever happened, but I'm hopeful that she did. I don't know.
I'm hopeful that she did too, but you know what?
Yeah.
It's funny because in a weird way, it's almost also beneficial to be like that in tune with your lack of ability to verbalize something like that to your
Yeah.
children.
And I think it's
That, yeah,
cultural. I think it's very cultural to the point where like we need to normalize talking to our kids about
we do.
sex.
We do.
And
I
I don't
agree.
mean
It
like
is very
show them a
important.
fucking porn. I mean like talk to them about what a healthy sex life would look like. And I
Yeah,
encourage you guys to talk to them about homosexual relationships as well,
absolutely.
whether it be like two men or two women, like definitely, or like, trans man, you guys know what I mean, but
Yeah.
definitely explain the dynamics of like all of it because you never know if your child is, struggling with being trans and not being open about it. But like that might be your segue to kind of like open up and be like, hey, this is a safe space. Like, you know, this is how it works. Yeah.
100%. Because that's
So
the
if you're a
thing.
millennial and you
Yeah.
have kids, listen to us.
Listen, no, 100%. Because I think part of it is like, and I can already hear people being like, that's too much. You don't talk to kids about that. No, you do. And the thing
Yeah.
is, if you don't talk to children this way, this is when things get stigmatized. Once again, this is where they may be getting hurt and they don't know that something is
Yeah.
wrong, or just simply as adults or as people that are going to grow into adults, they need to have a whole view of the world in general. This is just the way the world is. This
Another
isn't,
problem,
no,
another
yeah.
problem I see is like we stigmatize it so much that I feel like parents convince themselves that if they don't talk about it, it won't happen.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
the main problem with it, that if you don't talk about it, it'll still happen and it'll happen
Yes.
wrong.
100%. They think that
Yeah.
sex is like fucking Beetlejuice. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
they say it
Yeah.
3 times, it's gonna fucking pop up, you know?
Disappear. Yeah, yeah,
Like,
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
no.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's not how it happens. So like it's better to, and same thing with alcohol, and that's another story for another episode. But like that's why I feel like it's very important for parents to talk to their children about healthy sex lives when they're younger,
Yeah.
like 8, 9, 10 years old,
Yeah.
because that's when typically puberty kicks in for some people. Some people are late bloomers. I was a late bloomer myself, but at least I knew what was coming. You know,
Yes.
so like I think, and it would be healthier for them too. Like if your kid is having a healthy sex life, because let's be real, when kids grow up with the stigmatized version of sex, they won't be open to their parents about like, hey, I'm liking this one person, I'm probably gonna fuck them. You know, like if they grow up thinking sex is bad, sex is wrong, sex doesn't is not a conversation for our household or whatever. Like we just
Yeah.
do it, then that's when you have 13-year-olds having children.
Exactly. Exactly. Not speaking about it openly fosters an environment of shame, right? Around
Yes,
this very natural thing that is so important. Like I think one of the things too is like maybe let's be honest about the fact that yes, sex is great to like get off and all this stuff, but we this is also how you connect with someone you love too. Like this is a huge key part of being a person that has a full life. And again, we're not discounting our asexual buddies, out there in the space. We know that there's asexual folks out there that this isn't part of it for them, right? The sex
Right.
part isn't part of gratifying companionship for them. Absolutely cool. However, most of the population relies on that for
Yeah.
a portion of that gratification, right? So
Yeah.
there's a beauty to sex that I think gets lost and sort of, yeah, it gets muddied and dirtied for no reason when it doesn't need to be this nasty thing. Like it's actually pretty awesome, right? Like in a lot of ways. So the shame around sex is something that I think it's like old news. Like leave it over there.
Yeah. For sure.
Um, with your
Yeah.
mom. Not your mom,
With your
but like the royal
right.
mom. You know what
The
I mean?
bomb.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, no, but I mean I think the public school like environments definitely let kids down. Depending on where you go to school, if there's a lot of like conservative folks that you're not gonna get anything
Yeah.
from
And
schools
I
like
think
that.
for sure, and I remember looking back into like what our sex ed
Mm,
class looked like.
yeah.
I think there's a lot much like there's a lot of improvement to be done
Yeah.
to what they're teaching because I think they're teaching very superficial, non-realistic kind of sex ed,
Mhm.
which once again, what I'm saying is teach them about sex in a healthy way. I'm not
A
saying
healthy way.
play a porno in front of them. Like that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
Because once again, porn is not realistic. It's very acted, you know.
Yeah.
So like what I'm saying is like the public, well, I guess the education system in general
Yeah.
has to shift their sex ed into a healthier sex ed.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And on that, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, let's talk about what sex looks like in non-monogamous relationships, because I think that's an important thing to talk about too. So
Absolutely.
we will be right back.
We'll be back.
That was really good. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hey guys, so we're back
We're back and we're full.
of the Holy Spirit. Um,
I meant my, you know, full. Just
oh,
kidding.
well, I was talking about the Holy Spirit, so shame on you. No, just kidding. The Holy Spirit looked at me and said, absolutely not.
He was like,
So
who are you?
who are you? Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that we talked about non-monogamy relationships and like
Yeah,
sex within those relationships, right? Because sex can look different there too, right? So
absolutely.
quick definition. So one quick definition of polyamory is the practice of having sexual or romantic relationships with two or more people at the same time.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, now it states with the informed consent of all partners involved. People who identify as polyamorous may believe in consensual non-monogamy with a conscious management of jealousy and reject the view that sexual and relational exclusivity, monogamy, are prerequisite for deep, committed, long-term, loving relationships. Others prefer to restrict their sexual activity to only members of the group, a close polyamorous relationship that is usually referred to as polyfidelity. So,
Interesting.
uh, yeah.
Okay, so
So,
like from my understanding, it didn't
yeah.
because that almost sounded like an open relationship, you know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And once again, I'm just talking from experience in like queer culture. Like
Sure.
when it comes down to just physical sexual interactions, it's much more of an open relationship scenario versus
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
versus like polyamory, which is seen more as like two or more people involved, no, three or more people involved in like this one relationship scenario.
right. And there's like emotional investment with
Emotional
all of
investment
it.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like I know I've mentioned this before, and I did at some point have like a three-way relationship, which in reality that could be considered as a polyamorous relationship because I did have two partners at once. Um, yes, yes, I know why you're rolling your eyes. It wasn't terrible, but the
I'm not
dynamics,
rolling my eyes at the relationship. Let's make that clear. I'm rolling my eyes at the people in
right,
the
right, right,
relationship.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, well, what I was gonna say is like you do get to really I think that's when people are challenged the most,
Okay.
because you have to self-reflect a lot. And I think,
Mm.
especially if one of the three is like very possessive or jealous or something like that, like you have to really know that that's for you. And I know I've repeated this a million times in the podcast, and I don't think I could ever be like 100% monogamous. But if I did ever have a polyamorous relationship, I think I would genuinely want to have like, two or three partners that are emotionally and physically connected for sure. Like,
Okay.
not all of us have to be intertwined, but like me in a relationship with one person and then me in a relationship with another person is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think so to your point, I think in polyamorous relationships, sex obviously plays a huge role, right? In like one, again, the informed consent, right? There's also like the health aspect of how much informed consent is so important, right? And setting up those rules, right? Or those, yeah, those rules, those boundaries in that polyamorous relationship, because if the agreement is that it's a closed group, right? And someone is perhaps not sticking to that agreement and they engage in a sexual activity that makes them sick, and then they bring it to the whole group. I've seen that happen, and that's not cool at all,
I think
right?
once we
Um,
read a conversation or a story on Am I the Asshole? There's like this one scenario where like it was like swingers, and then one of the couples was like an open couple, and then
was
the other
really
one
into,
was like,
yep, yep,
right, yeah, yeah,
yep,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. And so their sex becomes very complicated and like even
exactly,
yeah, very,
yeah.
very important to like revisit those boundaries and see where everyone is at. And I
I
think
think
you're
you
right. I mean, yeah.
pointed out something like amazing. There are boundaries, even when it
Yes.
comes down to an open relationship, a monogamous relationship, a polyamorous relationship. Like there will always be boundaries, and there will always be rules, quote unquote. Um,
Always.
yeah. So I think that's
Yeah.
yeah
No,
key
absolutely. That's
boundaries,
absolutely key. Yeah. Um and yeah,
and
and
those
I
are
think that
healthy. Having boundaries in your
oh my
relationship are
gosh,
completely healthy. Yeah.
we love a boundary.
Even
Um
when it comes to sex and having boundaries, like it is okay to have boundaries when you have intercourse with someone.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I think that that's also, a little bit that reminded me of it when you were sort of talking through the, that you would like, a sort of you being completely monogamous is not something that, has ever really appealed to you. But I think when it comes to those boundaries is like jealousy, right, is a thing that plays a huge role in these because guys, jealousy is a natural human emotion,
Jealousy
right?
is another episode.
It's a whole other episode. But
Yeah.
in these relationships, it gets ramped up because you're kind of living it every day or some sort of
Hmm,
version
hmm.
of it. And so that's why these boundaries are also so important so that you can manage your own shit within the relationship, right? I think really quickly one distinction that I want to make, Fonz, is that polyamory is not the same as polygamy. And I want to make
Right.
sure that we let folks know that because that polygamy is also a very sort of well-known term, but that has more of a religious meaning to
Right.
it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let me read this out for you guys. Polygamy is the practice of marrying multiple spouses. When a man is married to more than one wife at the same time, it is called polygyny. When a woman is married to more than one husband at the same time, it's called polyandry. So, um, the thing about polygamy is that it's largely seen in like religious groups. And in religious groups, it's very much only one man
One
to
man. Yep.
several wives, and the wives do not get to interact with each other or any other men at all. It's mostly the males that benefit
Yeah.
in that agreement. Um, I mean, that's the thing. Judge me. That sounds judgmental, but to me,
But it is also like, come on.
you know, let's be
Yeah.
honest. Because,
Yeah.
like, to me, polyamory is egalitarian. Everyone is getting something somewhere, is what I'm saying.
Right.
In polygamy, you're wife number four, waiting for his sorry ass limpy dick to make his way to you like a week later.
I love yeah, okay. That's what I was gonna say. I love how you make it seem like he starts with wife one and then ends
No,
with
no, no,
wife nine. And
no.
it's more like
No.
he'll remember when one of them is
Yeah,
available,
no.
I guess.
And from what I've seen is that you guys know my obsession with like fundamentalist communities. So a lot of like um these communities, yeah, it's they think it makes them closer to God and all this stuff. Um and so, but it's very much like they spend a night with each wife or like two nights with one wife, and that, like there's like a rotating schedule almost. Which again, if that's your shit, but the jealousy in those communities seems to be a lot more prevalent and actually insidious, whereas like, because it corrodes, right? Whereas jealousy, it seems in polyamorous circles, seems to be this thing that you manage, but it doesn't destroy.
Right.
And so yeah, so or
I
it can,
also
but
just
yeah,
I think just thinking in general, I don't it's because of jealousy, I don't think everyone has to be jealous. Or not everyone's jealous. I don't know what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is like I don't think when it comes down to polyamory or polygamy or anything like that or open relationships,
yeah,
I don't think any person who's open to any of that is jealous or has some sort of jealousy.
that's not true.
It
There's
could
no,
be, yeah, it could be, but I think in general, the main reason why you open up your relationship or you have a polyamorous relationship or something like that is
yeah,
because you already bypass that state of jealousy with your partner where you are fully
yeah,
secure and content with what you guys have and then you're open to experimenting with other people.
yeah. I think maybe, and I know exactly. I think I know exactly what you're saying. I think maybe what it is that jealousy presents differently. It's not going to be like,
Could
don't
be,
look
yeah.
at them, don't talk to them, or whatever, or what are you doing? Because again, like you said, it's already been established, right? We want to do this. So you're right. I don't think there's like jealousy in the traditional sense, but there might be versions of it within a relationship. It just presents differently, either more time spent
This is
with
okay, so
one
this
or
is
another.
a really good topic for another episode because we can
Yeah.
actually so like you're monogamous.
Yes.
I'm currently in a monogamous relationship. And
Right.
then I've been in open relationships before
Yeah.
and three-way relationships before. So I have a lot of groups
You
of people
do.
who are open and stuff. So it would
Yeah.
be fun to have an episode on jealousy with someone who is currently in a polyamorous relationship or open relationship.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Drop
Open
it in.
invitation.
Open invitation,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's important to remember that sex can look very different within monogamous relationships or within, anything outside
Any
of that
relationship.
binary,
Yeah.
right?
I
Any
think
relationship.
we should kind of segue into like just to close out this episode
Yeah.
and talk about our personal experiences. I mean, I know I
Ugh.
have a bunch of like fucking weird and funny and
Ugh,
horrid stories. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, and you know, I know I'm not alone in this, but I will speak for like women. A pretty common womanly experience is that sex is largely very confusing, generally unsatisfying, and sad when you're young. Like when, yeah, like, and
I
that's the
can
thing,
see
like,
that honestly, because I can see how, like, especially the pressure of prom night or the pressure of whatever, you know,
100%,
turning
a
15 or
100%.
turning 18 or like being
Yes.
a virgin is now a stigma for some odd reason. So I can see how all that pressure would be kind of like,
Yes. It's
yeah.
very, very, yeah. So I think for
Do
me,
you do
tell
you
me.
remember your first time?
Yes, I do. It's burned forever into my fucking psyche, and I wish I could undo it. It was absolute, it was just, that's the thing. It's not like it was traumatic. It's not like
Right.
it was very much consensual, very much my first boyfriend, who I
Right.
was convinced, was gonna be it, We've all been there, right? Like you're done, right?
Question
Yeah,
for you. Do you
yeah.
consider um oral sex or blowjobs to be sex?
No,
Okay.
no, no.
Yeah.
But
No, I
yeah,
agree. Yeah,
no.
I think for me, sex is the actual form of penetration.
100%. Yeah, to me, same. Yeah, so no, I mean, I thought it was very much gonna be, so for me, this was like big deal,
Expectations are like relative to
oh,
the devil.
oh my God. And that's
Yeah.
exactly it. I thought it was gonna be this magical, I was a victim of all the romance novels I had been obsessed with my entire life up until that point. And I was,
Unfortunately, I am sure that is like very relatable to women.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think like my experience was not unique in any way, shape, or form. I think also it helped the person who was my first, it was their first too. So
Okay, so that's
in
good.
yeah, so in a lot, and that's the thing, we weren't super young, but we were very green in terms of like
Are you
relationships, things
comfortable
like that.
like saying what age?
Age? Yeah, I was 17. I was
Okay,
17.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but for me, it was like we were like when I think about it now, I'm like we were teeny tiny, like we were a baby. We didn't know what the
Like not
fuck
even
we
high
were
school
doing.
graduates.
Yeah, like we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
Right.
We didn't, you know what I mean? And so I don't want to, be like just completely like, it was just, it wasn't a good experience. I think we were both
Right.
like, it was very
And
much
I
a,
think
was that it? Did we do it? Kind of thing.
are we
Like,
done?
are we done?
But okay,
Yeah.
so obviously
Yeah.
you didn't finish.
No.
That's a given. Yeah.
No, 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 no.
For me
Yeah.
it's kind of weird because like I've had two firsts, you know?
Yes, you
It's
have.
like my first time with a woman and then my first time with a man.
That's right.
Now, I cannot remember my first time with a man either being the top or being the bottom. I cannot remember either one. I cannot. I do remember my first male blowjob, like me giving and receiving. That
Sure.
I do remember, but for some odd reason, I cannot remember the first time I was with a guy as a bottom, and I can't remember the first time I was with a guy as a top.
Why
Cannot.
do you think that is?
I don't know. It may or
Interesting.
may have not been related to alcohol. May maybe,
No, 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 no.
but I cannot remember. And so, like with a woman, that's the one thing I do applaud. She was far more experienced than I was. Like I think, you know, I'm not. I hate shaming women who are experienced because
Me too. Me too.
they are amazing. They are the ones that take people like me and kind of take them under their wing.
They're doing the Lord's work. They really are.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so like for
Yeah.
me, that experience was great because I remember my first time with a woman because she walked me through everything from like orally pleasuring a woman to like fingering and like what actually goes
Everything.
on to finding the fucking clitoris that apparently no straight man knows
It's
where
a
to find.
mystery. It's a mystery.
Yeah, just take a fucking anatomy class.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. And
Is it
then
that hard? Yeah, yeah.
right. And also like uh the actual form of penetration, like the
Yeah.
best thing and the most important thing that I remember from her was like her saying every woman is different, so like this is what works for me, so just make sure
But
that right, just make sure that your next person, like you have that conversation and you keep on asking if that's okay, that feels good, etc., etc., kind of find what she gets off to.
what she likes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, and see, and I think that that's a very positive experience, right? Because it was like
absolutely. Yeah,
very much a engaged sort of like let's go through this. Yeah. I think that's not the case for most women the first
right,
time.
right.
Um, yeah. Uh, but again, that confidence comes with age
And
though. It
it's
really does.
unfortunate that I can say this and be 100% sure of what I'm saying is that if a woman, like a virgin, were to come across a man who's more experienced, she would not have the same experience. Like this guy would never
Take the
explain to
time.
her. Yeah,
Yeah.
would never take the time to explain to her, to
No,
coach
no,
her,
no.
to et cetera, et cetera. He would just do it and be
Good.
done. And then
Yeah.
unfortunately, that would be an unpleasant situation for her because it's her first time.
100%. 100%. And I think that that's why it's important. Like, you know, I think of that to my life now, and things couldn't be more different. But also, the partnerships got better, right? As time went along. And also, I got better in the sense that I became very well, like very
Aware of your
sure of
body.
myself. Yeah. Like this is who I am and this is what I like, what I don't like, and this is it, right? And so
100%.
and I think that's important like for people to have patience with
Yeah.
themselves when it
One
comes to
thing I
this stuff.
always
Yeah.
tell people is like, don't be afraid to whore around. There's such a stigma around sleeping around,
Yeah.
and there is no shame to that. Why?
There's none. There's none.
I'm not saying like it's good or bad to have a million people in 1 year. You know, I'm not saying it's good or bad. Like,
Yeah.
props to you if you can handle that. We don't have the
Go
time.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. What I am saying, however, is if you want to explore your body, if you want to know your body, if you want to know what you like and dislike, absolutely take the time. Have more than 10 partners because every
Yeah.
single situation will be different and every
Very
single
different.
person will teach you a new thing, whether it be a new thing that you like or a new thing that you dislike. And then you
You
will
dislike.
definitely understand your body and you will get play with yourself, find some toys, know what you like. That's what I'm trying to say.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. Yeah. And if you decide to be like in a monogamous relationship, make sure that the person that you're gonna have sex with is someone that you feel safe talking to and telling them um the things that you like or don't like. It's
I
not
think
the
that's
inevitable.
another episode two, monogamy. We need to discuss this because I was listening to a podcast earlier this week and they were talking about monogamy and they broke it down to the science of our bodies and anatomies and see if monogamy is an actual thing. So episode to come.
Ooh, I love it. I'm excited. But yeah, no, so I think yeah, for me like yeah, first times are weird and you have
Are
all
we
I mean they are. They are. I mean like that's the thing. Like your first time it was very much an outlier, Fonzie. Like
with a
most
woman?
people
Yes.
yes, with a woman. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not it doesn't go that way.
Right.
And so yeah, I think for me like I think like as a closing thing, like sex is not it's not something you have to do, but it's something that if you want to do, you should. Uh, something if you're curious about, you should do it anyway. Um, but don't go at it blind, especially nowadays. Like, there's no reason for you to go at it blind. Like,
100%.
friends, Google
Okay,
it.
so before we close, I definitely want to talk about like I don't necessarily remember my first time bottoming for a man, but I do remember the preparation it took before I did it. And it goes hand in hand with you what you just said. I did take the time to see what
Okay.
was needed to prep for that. And
Yeah.
obviously, if you're one of our gay listeners, like there is a lot of preparation to it. You do have to, get familiarized with an enema. And you have to learn how to wash. You have to learn how to douche. Like it is crucial that you prep for this. There's a joke in the community where like if you know you're gonna bottom, you just order vodka and water. There's a reason for that joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we'll post the video of Katya on Z-Way talking
Yeah.
about
Okay,
Fantastic.
let's talk. I know you said closing statement, but I don't want to close.
No, no, tell me what?
Have you, as a cisgender straight female, have you ever
Mm,
tried anal penetration?
no.
Okay. So I have plenty of people that have,
Uh-huh.
plenty of females that have.
Uh-huh. What's their
And
take? What's the tea? What are they saying?
okay, so from what I've learned is the first time is painful, it's uncomfortable, it's completely normal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I can
then
see that.
once they get informed, once they do the preparation, it is a lot more pleasurable. And it's
Interesting.
not the same pleasure you get
No,
from
no, no.
vaginal
Sure.
penetration,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
still get some sort of pleasure from it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've had some girlfriends that have told me that it's about like the weight. The weight sits on the vulva in a very specific way. In
Interesting.
anal penetration, that's what I've been told is that yeah, you're right. The pleasure is very different, but for them, and I've heard the same thing from several of my girlfriends that they say like it's about the weight. There's a weight that is introduced to the vulva that is very different and nice.
I
So
can see that
I
because okay, so when I picture like straight penetration, like typically, the penis is entering the vulva, the vagina, whatever. So the vulva doesn't really get much pleasure from
no,
it.
no, no. She's over here on her own up here.
Yeah,
She's
the
chilling.
balls are more
Yeah,
like slapping
100%.
the butthole. That's typically
Yeah,
what they
yeah,
feel. So then when you
yeah.
switch that and the men's pelvis is actually putting pressure on the
It's a
vulva,
lot.
then
That's
I
right.
can see how that would be different. Yeah, that's
Yes,
interesting.
yeah. I think, and so yeah, so I think for a lot of women it works.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
fun stuff. If you do it, if you try it, definitely prep and definitely use plenty of lube. You do not want to go in dry.
Just when you think it's too much, just do one more squirt. Just
Yeah,
just one more squirt.
right.
Because you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah.
Also, ladies, don't
Eh,
try your KY jelly ICN fire on the butthole. Do not do it. It burns.
yeah.
Not pleasurable. You will forever regret it. Just a
Please
regular plain. If you will like fruity flavors, then go for that, but do not add the fire and ice.
take Fonz's word for it. It burns.
Yes, I
Yes.
promise it will not be okay.
You will not be fine.
Yeah,
Um,
you will
oh,
regret it immediately. Feels good on your vagina, will not feel good in your ass.
does not transfer to the butthole.
Yeah.
Um, no, we love it. Also, be very careful. I do know this. Bacteria transfer, especially for women,
Oh yes.
from butthole to vagina, that
Don't
it
do
doesn't go
that
that way, ladies. It has to be
unless he
vagina to
washes
butthole
it.
only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless
No,
there's like
unless
some cleaning.
right.
That's right. Yeah.
Unless you want to take a
Because
break and then go wash off and
clean
then go
up
back into the
and
vagina,
then yeah,
green light. But
because
definitely no.
otherwise that is gonna be the worst experience of your life in
There's a
about 48
reason why
hours.
you guys have to wipe a certain way.
That's right.
Same thing
Exactly.
with intercourse.
Same concept, ladies. Yeah. So yeah. No, I mean I no,
Now
never
I'm
mind.
ready to close. I had one more story, but we can close.
No, what's the story?
Okay, so remember earlier how we were talking about like foreskin?
Yeah. I
So
do.
I remember there's one scenario where we went out, blah blah blah. I was with a couple of friends, and then one of my friends calls me. They're crying, like sobbing. The first thing I thought was like, because so we were at a straight bar, and the first thing I thought was like, oh
They got
shit,
beat up. They got beat up.
100%. That was my
Yeah.
first reaction. I
Yeah.
was like, thought like he's probably bleeding from all over the place. Like his face is probably deformed. I need to get to the emergency ASAP.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, hey, where are you? Whatever, whatever, whatever. End up going to their car. Their car is full of blood. I open the door and I just see blood everywhere. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Is your leg missing? Is your penis missing? The first thing I thought was like the other person bit their penis off. And I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, this is
Yeah.
going to be
Hmm.
traumatic. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Little did I know, they try to go in through the butthole raw with no lube, just spit. And guess what happened?
Got stuck. Did
Foreskin
it get
tore. The
stuck?
foreskin tore. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
yeah.
I
And
don't.
so,
Oh,
yeah. And so I was like, holy shit. Not what I was expecting. I'm glad it wasn't, but also like, holy shit. So then ER, whatever. That's why I'm saying sometimes medical circumcisions are great because this
right.
person should have probably never went in raw with just a little bit of spit if their foreskin wasn't going to go all the way back. Hence the rapture. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I didn't see it, but the blood was enough for me to be like, barf. Let's go to the ER.
Jesus fucking Christ. And on that note, of course,
Right.
um,
Ladies, never go in raw.
ladies,
There is
no,
lube.
don't do it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
guys, um, yeah. So what did we learn? Be careful with your foreskin.
Yep.
Be thoughtful.
Consent boundaries. There's a lot to
Consent
this episode.
boundaries.
I think just
Learn.
listen to it 3 times and then we'll get
Just listen through it 3 times. Let us
yeah.
know what you
Right.
think. Remember, this is going to go up on Monday for y'all. So this is
Yep.
when
Yep.
you guys are going to go be listening to this. Yeah, guys, but go have tons of sex.
And
And until next
healthy
time,
sex. Have a
healthy
healthy
sex.
sex life.
Have a
That's all
healthy
I'm
sex
asking
life.
from you.
That's it.
Yeah.
And until next time, this has been General
General
Query.
query.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
That was good.
Yay.